I was driving past Tyler's office building when I spotted Patty's white BMW in the parking lot. That didn't make sense. She said she'd be at the spa all afternoon, getting her weekly massage and facial routine. I'm Bob Hayes, 52 years old. Did 22 years in the Marines before I started Hayes Security Solutions here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Built it from nothing into a $9 million business with 120 employees, mostly veterans like me. Been married to Patricia Hayes for 18 years now. She's got a 26-year-old daughter, Becca, from her first marriage that I adopted when we got together in 2006. Becca's an Air Force officer now, works in military psychology. Tyler Brooks is Becca's husband, married her 2 years ago. He's a lawyer who handles real estate and financial consulting. Met him through the Veterans Association. He did a tour in Afghanistan with the Army before law school. Seemed like a solid guy who understood military families. But seeing Patty's car at his office on a Tuesday afternoon when she should be at the spa didn't add up. I killed the engine and sat there watching the building. Through the second-floor windows, I could see movement in Tyler's corner office. My phone buzzed. Text from Patty. Running late at spa. Don't wait dinner. That text came at 3:47 p.m. Her car had been in Tyler's lot since at least 3:30. I pulled out my phone and hit record, then walked around to the side of the building where Tyler's office windows faced the parking lot. The building was one of those cheap constructions with thin walls and windows that didn't seal right. You could hear conversations if you got close enough. What I heard through that gap destroyed everything I thought I knew about my life. When Bob signs the business restructuring documents next month, we'll have everything positioned perfectly. Tyler's voice came through clear as day. The new corporate structure puts assets where they need to be, and the business valuation is locked in at $9 million. Patty laughed. That laugh I'd heard for 18 years suddenly made my stomach drop. 18 years of playing the devoted military wife. Bob actually thinks I'm proud of his little security company. I pressed myself against the brick wall, phone recording every word. The beautiful part is his trusting nature, Tyler continued. All those years taking orders in the Marines trained him to assume people are honest. He's handed us documentation for every asset, the ranch, the lake house, his retirement accounts, even his gun collection inventory. How much are we looking at total, Patty asked. Business assets, $9 million, real estate, $2.8 million, retirement and investments, $1.4 million, plus his collections worth about $800K. Total marital assets around $13.2 million. With North Carolina's equitable distribution laws, you're entitled to half of everything acquired during marriage, plus spousal support. My hands started shaking. 18 years of marriage, 22 years of military service, 8 years building. This business from scratch, all of it reduced to numbers on Tyler's legal pad. The timeline's perfect, Tyler said. File in November, claim irreconcilable differences. Bob's so focused on the new Fort Liberty contracts he won't see it coming. By Christmas you'll be divorced, wealthy, and free to do whatever you want. A stick snapped under my boot. Both voices stopped. Did you hear something? Patty's voice carried suspicion. Probably just the maintenance crew, Tyler replied after a pause. You're being paranoid. Can you blame me? If Bob discovered this before we're ready, he won't. The man couldn't spot a conspiracy if it came with a PowerPoint presentation. 2 decades of following military orders doesn't exactly train you for strategic thinking and relationships. Their laughter felt like a punch to the gut. These people had been planning my destruction while I was working 60-hour weeks to provide for them. I stayed hidden until their conversation resumed, my phone capturing every detail. When I finally got back to my truck 20 minutes later, I had 32 minutes of crystal clear audio that would change everything. 18 years of marriage. The woman who'd supported me through my transition from military to civilian life, who'd celebrated every business milestone, who'd stood beside me at veteran memorial services, all of it had been an act. I sat in my truck staring at my hands on the steering wheel. These same hands had served our country for 22 years, had built a business that employed over 100 veterans, had provided every comfort Patty enjoyed. Until 30 minutes ago, I absolutely believed she loved me. The office building's front door opened just as I reached for my keys. Patty came out first, checking her phone, followed by Tyler adjusting his tie. Neither expected to find me sitting across the street. The shock on Patty's face was unmistakable. "Bob!" Her voice went up an octave. "What are you doing here?" I forced my face into something normal, though my heart was pounding. Finished the Fort Liberty inspection early. Thought I'd stop by and see if Tyler wanted to grab coffee. Tyler stepped closer to Patty, his lawyer instincts kicking in. Those gray eyes studied my face, looking for cracks in my story. "He's not available," Patty said quickly. Tyler was helping me understand some investment documents. You know how confused I get with financial stuff." The lie came out smooth as silk. How many lies had I swallowed over the years without question? "Investment documents," I repeated, keeping my voice casual. "Anything I should know about?" Tyler's jaw tightened slightly. "Just general financial planning, Bob. Portfolio diversification strategies." "Good thinking. With the new contracts coming in, we should probably review our whole financial picture." I paused, watching their faces. "How long have you two been working on this?" "Just today," Patty said too quickly. "I called Tyler this morning when you mentioned the Hartford Industries contract. But I'd never mentioned the Hartford contract to her. That was classified information, still in negotiation." "Well, don't let me interrupt your planning session," I said, climbing back into my truck. "See you at home, Patty." As I drove away, I watched them in my rearview mirror. They stood frozen until my truck disappeared around the corner, then immediately moved closer together, heads bent in urgent conversation. The three-way dance had started. They suspected I might have overheard something. I knew they were planning to destroy me, and all of us were pretending everything was normal. But they didn't know about the recording on my phone. 32 minutes of evidence that would turn their conspiracy into my counterattack. I pulled into traffic, hands steady for the first time in an hour. The shock was wearing off, replaced by something colder and more focused. They thought they were playing chess with someone who didn't know the rules. They were about to find out their mistake. The 15-minute drive home gave me time to think like a Marine again. 22 years in the Corps teaches you to compartmentalize shock and focus on the mission. My mission now was protecting everything I'd built while these two thought they were still running their operation in secret. Our house sits on 40 acres outside Fayetteville, with a view of the lake I stocked with bass. I built most of it myself after leaving the service, every board and nail honest work. Now I was seeing it through their eyes. Assets to be divided. I parked and sat for a moment, listening to parts of the recording again. Tyler's voice. 2 decades of following military orders doesn't exactly train you for strategic thinking and relationships. That line pissed me off. They thought military discipline made me naive. They were about to learn the difference between following orders and tactical planning. Inside, I went straight to my home office, where files from 8 years of business records lined the shelves. Tax returns, contracts, property deeds, everything Tyler thought he'd been secretly documenting. But they'd made a big mistake. The real assets weren't in those files. I called Marcus Webb, my accountant and fellow Marine veteran. "Marcus, I need to discuss those asset protection structures we set up during the expansion talks. The offshore arrangements, those are solid, Bob. Completely legal, fully documented, but invisible unless someone knows exactly what to look for." "Why?" "Family problems. I need everything secured before things get messy." Marcus understood immediately. "I'll have the transfer documents ready by tomorrow morning. Any domestic legal action won't even see the real money." While Tyler and Patty had been cataloging the visible assets, they'd missed $4.2 million in offshore accounts and business structures that existed legally, but beyond their amateur investigation. Next, I called Jim Bradley at First National, where I'd banked for 12 years. "Jim, I need a comprehensive security review on all accounts, freeze all joint access, pending identity verification." "That's going to mess up Patty's day significantly, Bob. That's the point." The security holds activated at 11:30 a.m. Wednesday morning, just as Patty was meeting her book club friends for lunch at the country club. My phone buzzed with the first declined transaction at 12:15. I was reviewing the new Fort Liberty contract when Patty's panicked call came at 12:45. "Bob, something's wrong with our accounts. My card got declined at lunch and the bank said there's a security hold. Do you know anything about this?" Perfect innocence. No mention of her secret meeting with Tyler. No acknowledgement that she'd been moving money without telling me. Security hold? That sounds serious. What did they say triggered it? Something about verifying identity and account access. It's embarrassing, Bob. I'm sitting here with Linda and Susan and I can't even pay for my lunch. I'll call Jim Bradley right away. We'll get this sorted out. But I didn't call Jim. Instead, I drove to the office where my crew was installing security systems for the new medical center contract. The familiar routine of honest work felt good after 24 hours of financial warfare. My phone kept buzzing with texts all afternoon. 1:47 p.m. Still can't access any accounts. This is ridiculous. 2:23 p.m. Jim Bradley's secretary says he's in meetings all day. What kind of bank ignores its best customers? 3:15 p.m. Even our emergency credit line is frozen. How am I supposed to buy groceries? Each message brought satisfaction. For 18 years, Patty had taken financial security for granted while I worked 60-hour weeks to provide it. Now she was learning what it felt like when that security vanished. Tyler's reaction was even better. My private investigator, Mike Rodriguez, another Marine veteran who runs surveillance for Hayes Security, called with an update at 4:30. Tyler tried to access his shared account with your wife 3 times this afternoon. When that failed, he tried to withdraw from what looks like a trust account, probably Becca's education fund that he manages. That one's frozen too. How did he handle it? Angry phone calls to bank representatives, threats about legal action, classic lawyer discovering his leverage just disappeared. By 6 p.m., I was home reviewing the day's financial battlefield from my office. Every shared account frozen, every joint credit line suspended, every automatic payment requiring my personal authorization. Patty's access to 18 years of accumulated wealth had been reduced to whatever cash she carried. The phone rang at 6:47 p.m. Patty's number, but her voice would be desperate now, not manipulative. "Bob, we need to talk right now. Something's gone terribly wrong. I'm listening. Not on the phone. I'm coming home." She walked in 20 minutes later, face flushed with panic and anger. "What did you do to our accounts?" "Standard security protocol." Jim Bradley recommended it after some suspicious activity showed up. "Suspicious activity, Bob? I've been locked out of everything. I couldn't even buy gas. I studied my wife of 18 years, seeing calculation behind the distress. What kind of suspicious activity were you worried about, Patty?" The question caught her off guard. She'd expected accusations, not questions. What do you mean?" "You said something's gone terribly wrong. What exactly has gone wrong from your perspective?" She sat across from my desk, trying to regain control. "Our accounts are frozen, Bob. Our credit cards don't work." "How is that not wrong?" "Bank security measures flag unusual activity patterns. Large transfers, new account openings, attempts to access funds from multiple locations." I paused. "Have you been doing anything that might trigger security protocols?" Her face went pale. "Of course not. Why would you ask that?" "Just trying to understand the situation. Jim mentioned some irregular transactions over the past few months. Transfers to accounts not in your name." That was a bluff, but her reaction confirmed everything. The color drained from her face. "I don't know what you're talking about." $47,000 in transfers to an account listing Daniel Brooks as beneficiary. Ring any bells? Patty's mouth opened and closed. Tyler had been careless with their shared account, and now she was caught. "I can explain that. I'm sure you can. But first, tell me about your investment planning session with Tyler yesterday." She recovered faster than I expected. It was exactly what I said. Investment advice. About transferring $47,000 to his account? That was a temporary arrangement for tax purposes. 18 years of marriage, and I was finally seeing the real Patricia Hayes. The mask was slipping, revealing someone I'd never actually met. Patty stood up abruptly. "I need to make some phone calls." As she left my office, I knew exactly who she'd be calling. Tyler was about to learn that their conspiracy had been discovered. 3 days of preparation had transformed my home office into a command center. 2 laptops displayed bank statements, legal databases, and property records. Yellow legal pads covered every surface with columns labeled assets, weaknesses, timeline, and leverage. I'd learned something important about Tyler during my research. The man planning to steal my fortune was drowning in debt. $280,000 in cryptocurrency losses, $12,000 monthly office rent chosen for image over sense, and a growing reputation for cutting corners when money got tight. Tyler's sharp Jim Morrison from Morrison Construction told me over coffee. But he's got expensive tastes on a small budget. 3 of my subcontractors are still waiting for payment from work completed 6 months ago. Always promises payment next week, then disappears when bills come due. The State Bar Association's website showed 2 dismissed ethical complaints in the past year, both involving client fund problems. Dismissed but documented. My phone rang Tuesday morning, Becca's name on the screen. "Dad, I need to ask you something." Her voice carried the careful tone she used with troubled Air Force personnel. "Is everything okay between you and Mom? There's been weird tension whenever I'm around both of you." My grip tightened on the phone. How much did she know? How much had Tyler told her? "What makes you ask, sweetheart?" "Little things. Mom seems stressed about money, which is strange since business has been good. And Tyler keeps asking questions about your company structure, like how partnerships work and who controls what assets." She paused. "It feels like they're fishing for information." Fishing for information. My daughter's military training had detected the predatory behavior her mother and husband thought they'd hidden. Probably just curiosity about how business works. Maybe. But Becca didn't sound convinced. "Dad, if something was wrong, really wrong, you'd tell me, right?" "Tell her what? That her mother was planning to destroy me financially? That her husband was running the whole operation?" "Of course, sweetheart, everything's fine, just the usual business pressures." After we hung up, I sat staring at my research notes. Tyler had been pumping my daughter for information about my business structure. Their intelligence operation was broader than I'd realized. By Wednesday afternoon, Tyler's law practice was getting calls from the State Bar Association about expedited investigation procedures. 3 more contractors had filed complaints about missing payments. His professional reputation was now under formal review. At 4:47 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Mike Rodriguez. Tyler just left his office carrying 3 boxes of files, heading toward his car. He looks panicked. I knew exactly where he was going. Tyler would be driving straight to Patty. Thursday morning found me in Judge Patricia Hendricks' courtroom. Patty sat at the plaintiff's table with Linda Hawthorne, a divorce attorney known for aggressive tactics. She'd dressed carefully, conservative clothes, minimal makeup, the nervous look of an abused wife. "Mrs. Hayes," Judge Hendricks began, reviewing the emergency restraining order petition. "You claim your husband has engaged in financial abuse and intimidation. Can you describe specific incidents?" Patty's voice trembled. "Your Honor, for months my husband has been restricting my access to our accounts, monitoring my spending, making threats about what would happen if I tried to leave." "What kind of threats, Mrs. Hayes?" "Financial threats, that I'd be left with nothing. That he'd use his military connections to destroy my reputation." She paused. "Last week, he completely cut off my access to money, even for basic needs. I watched my wife of 18 years lie under oath with increasing confidence. Each lie built on the previous one, creating fictional abuse from a man who'd spent decades providing every comfort she'd demanded." Judge Hendricks turned to my attorney, James Morrison. "Does the defendant wish to respond?" James stood with calm authority. "Your Honor, we have evidence that Mrs. Hayes' claims are not only false, but part of a deliberate conspiracy to defraud the defendant of marital assets. That's a serious allegation, Counselor. We have audio recording of Mrs. Hayes and her co-conspirator Daniel Brooks planning this exact scenario last month." Patty's face went white. Linda Hawthorne whispered frantically in her client's ear, "But damage control was impossible when your entire case was built on lies." "I'd like to present Exhibit A," James continued, connecting his phone to the courtroom's audio system. Patty's voice filled the chamber. 18 years of playing the devoted military wife. Bob actually thinks I'm proud of his little security company. For 32 minutes, Judge Hendricks listened to the complete conspiracy unfold. Patty's mockery of our marriage, Tyler's legal strategies for asset seizure, their calculated plan to manipulate Becca's psychology credentials. "The man actually believes I love him," Patty's recorded voice declared with casual cruelty. "I watched my wife's fabricated victim story crumble in real time. Her coached testimony about fearing for her safety became absurd when contrasted with her recorded laughter about manipulating me." Judge Hendricks stopped the recording. "Mrs. Hayes, do you have any response to this evidence?" Patty's mouth opened and closed silently. Linda Hawthorne's face had gone pale as she realized her client had used her to file fraudulent court documents. "Your Honor," Linda said carefully, "I request permission to withdraw from this case. I was not informed of these circumstances when I agreed to representation." "Motion granted." Judge Hendricks fixed Patty with the stare she reserved for liars. "Mrs. Hayes, I'm dismissing your restraining order petition with prejudice. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for investigation of possible perjury charges. The gavel fell with finality that echoed through the courtroom. 2 weeks later, the divorce settlement reflected Patty's spectacular miscalculation. Her documented deception eliminated any claim to spousal support, and the prenuptial agreement she'd forgotten, signed eagerly in 2006, limited her to minimal asset division. Tyler's law license suspension became permanent revocation when the Bar Association discovered $180,000 in missing client funds. Last I heard, Tyler moved to Oregon and was working as a paralegal. Amazing how fast a law career can disappear when you steal client money. Becca filed for divorce the day after the hearing. "I choose truth over family loyalty," she told me in my office that afternoon. "I choose evidence over emotion, and I choose to support the parent who didn't try to manipulate my professional ethics." That hit me harder than winning the court case. My adopted daughter, who I'd raised since she was 8 years old, was willing to throw away her marriage to stand with me. That takes guts. "What about Tyler?" I asked. "What about him?" Her voice went cold. "My husband participated in a conspiracy to destroy my father while using my psychology practice as cover. That marriage is over." She left my office with the determined walk of someone who'd found moral clarity in a mess designed to destroy it. 20 minutes later, she was walking into her own home to confront the man who'd betrayed not just me, but the professional ethics she'd spent years building. 6 months later, Patty works retail at the same mall where she used to spend my money on designer clothes and jewelry. The irony isn't lost on either of us. She went from country club lunches to asking customers if they want extended warranties on electronics. I rebuilt Hayes Security's reputation stronger than before. The veteran community's support during my family troubles translated into new contracts and deeper business relationships. Word gets around fast in military circles when someone tries to screw over one of their own, and word also gets around when that someone fights back smart and wins. The house feels different now. Quieter, but honest. No more fake conversations or calculated affection, just the sound of wind through the pines I planted when Becca was a teenager, in a home that's finally mine again. I kept the recording on my phone for months afterward. 32 minutes of crystal clear evidence that turned their conspiracy into my victory. Sometimes I'd listen to parts of it, not out of anger but out of amazement at how completely I'd been fooled. "The man actually believes I love him," Patty's voice would say, and I'd think about how right she was. I really had believed she loved me. For 18 years, I'd worked my ass off to provide everything she wanted, thinking we were building something together. Now I know the difference between love and performance, between partnership and predation, between someone who supports your success and someone who's just positioning themselves to steal it. The financial side worked out better than expected. The offshore accounts Marcus had set up meant Patty and Tyler's conspiracy missed the real money entirely. They'd been cataloging $13.2 million in visible assets, while $4.2 million sat offshore, completely legal but invisible to their amateur investigation. The prenup Patty signed in 2006 limited her to minimal asset division anyway. She'd been so eager to marry a successful veteran with his own business that she'd signed whatever papers I put in front of her. Turns out that was the smartest thing I ever did. Tyler's bar investigation uncovered worse than I'd imagined. $180,000 in missing client funds, 3 different trust account violations, and a pattern of using client money to cover his cryptocurrency gambling. The man who planned to steal my life's work couldn't even manage his own finances. Mike Rodriguez still does. Surveillance work for Hayes Security. "Best case study I ever worked," he told me recently. "Amateur conspirators always make the same mistakes. They document everything. They trust each other completely, and they underestimate their target." That last part was key. They saw a trusting husband who worked long hours and rarely questioned household expenses. They failed to recognize the analytical mind that had built Hayes Security from a single truck into a $9 million enterprise. Becca's doing well. She built a new practice focused on military family counseling with particular expertise in recognizing manipulation patterns. Turns out my personal experience with family betrayal gave me insights that help other military families, she told me. Every bad experience can become useful if you process it right. She's dating a Navy pilot now. Good guy who understands military families and doesn't ask too many questions about why her previous marriage ended so abruptly. The veteran community took care of business in their own way. Tyler's new law firm in Oregon lost 3 major clients when word spread about what he'd tried to do to a fellow veteran. Military networks are tight, and they don't forget. Patty's social isolation was complete and permanent. The country club revoked her membership. The charity boards accepted resignations she'd never submitted. The book club stopped meeting at times when she could attend. Sometimes I drive past the mall where she works and see her through the electronics store window, explaining extended warranties to customers who probably make more money than she does now. I don't feel sorry for her. She made her choices. The recording on my phone had been the key to everything. 32 minutes of evidence that turned their conspiracy into my victory. Sometimes the best weapon against deception is simply the truth, properly documented and strategically deployed. If you're facing something similar, here's what I learned. Document everything. Trust your instincts. And remember that the same skills that served you in military service can protect you in civilian battles too. Most importantly, don't let betrayal make you bitter. Use it to make you smarter. There are still good people out there who understand honor, loyalty, and what it means to build something together instead of just positioning to steal it. The ranch is peaceful these days. Just me, the lake, and the satisfaction of knowing I outplayed people who thought they were smarter than a simple military veteran. They learned different.